Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Nadine, and I live here in the Byron Shire in New South Wales, Australia. As you can tell from my accent, I'm not originally from Australia. I'm from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and I moved here with my husband and two girls about 10 years ago. So yeah, it's very different, but very beautiful. Live in a tiny little house here, and yeah, my husband and I, we have a small business together. We make coconut ice cream and coconut yogurt. And we've got two girls, as I said before, and they're now both teenagers. The eldest one is in year 12, and she goes to a Steiner or a Waldorf school. And my younger one is 15, and she goes to a dance school where she dances half the day and does school for the other half of the day. Yeah, and also we have a black Labrador who's just turned 2, so he's very cute, named Bear. And so I have been hemming and hawing about making a knitting podcast for a very, very long time. I've been knitting for a very long time. And just yesterday on the car ride home from dance, my daughter was talking to me about this thing called human design, where you enter your birthday, the time you were born, and where you were born, and it basically maps out about you and things. And she was telling me in one section I was a number 2 and a number 5. I'm not sure which was which, but one was a hermit. So I guess introvert, likes to stay home, which definitely I do love to do. And the other one was teacher. And I have taught a lot in my life. Starting when I was 12 years old, I taught gymnastics. I did that for about 12 years. And I used to be a lifeguard, so I taught swimming lessons, synchronized swimming, swim team, diving, water polo, you name it. So, and then a couple of years ago, I also taught at my kids' old dance studio. I taught acrobatics to the kids, and I do love teaching, but I also like staying home. So I said, well, if I make a podcast, I can stay home, and I'm not going to be teaching per se, but I can talk about my stuff, my knitting, my sewing, my crochet, and then hopefully people can maybe learn something, or and likewise, I would love to learn too from other people who may see this and may comment or reach out. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So like I said, I crochet. I started crocheting when I was 8 years old. My mom taught me, and I just would, freehand crochet things. I didn't really know how to follow a pattern or anything. And a couple years after I started, for my best friend, one day for Christmas, I had made her, an extravaganza of leg warmers and neck warmers and snoods, if you remember a snood, and a vest and all kinds of things. And yeah, so I guess after that, I just crocheted every now and then. And then in my early 20s, I was a flight attendant. And one day I was on a flight with another flight attendant who was my age, and she was knitting, and I was like, oh my gosh, wow. And I was just fascinated, and I was watching her, and she had said that her boyfriend's mom was teaching her how to knit. And so she showed me, this is how you do it. And then luckily there was an older flight attendant who was there, and she was a knitter, and she came over and she goes, oh yeah, hold on. And then she taught me knit stitch and purl stitch. And so I spent a bit of time doing that, and I was just enthralled, and I loved it. So on my next day off, I went and to the craft store, just a little tiny craft store in Toronto where I was based in. And I bought some yarn, probably acrylic yarn, and some plastic knitting needles, and a little pamphlet of how to knit, because, in those days there was no YouTube, so I just had to rely on this little, 10-page pamphlet. And I just started knitting, and I just totally fell in love, and, went crazy. And then about a month later, I saw that same flight attendant again. I was getting on a bus, and she was getting off, and I was like, oh my gosh, how's your knitting going? And she's like, what? And oh yeah, no, that wasn't for me. No, I didn't. I was like, I made a sweater. And she was like, what? So yeah, so again, just like how my crocheting started, I didn't really know how to follow a pattern. For some reason, I thought reading a pattern was really hard and something a bit beyond what I could do. So I would just knit, and I knew what a knit stitch looked like and a purl stitch looked like. And one day I was watching a movie, The Mexican, with Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts, and she had on this orange cardigan, and on the big screen I could see, I was like, oh, and it had this like brick pattern. Maybe if I can get my stuff together, I can put a picture. And I could see that it had like a series of bricks, which were knits and purls. And I just, looked at it and like counted it, and I was like, I want to make that. So I went to that same store and I bought a whole bunch of orange yarn, and I kept my same needles. Now, I didn't know anything about gauge or whatnot. Like, luckily, the needles I had were okay with the yarn that I had. So I took a sweater that I already had, like a store-bought sweater, and I looked at it and I was like, okay, I'm going to start at the bottom. And I was like, okay, knit 2, purl 2, knit. Okay, I didn't know that was ribbing, but I was like, okay, I'll do that. Counted it, cast it on, did my ribbing, and then followed how the sweater was, but doing the stitch from the movie. So yeah, I might have even worked it out on paper, like drawn little knits, little V's and little squiggles and counted how I would do those stitches. And then of course I knit it flat because I didn't know anything about knitting in the round or circulars or anything. So I knit up the body, and then I was like, okay, here it looks like they're knitting 2 of them together. And then, okay, I did that. And then, and then worked out how to do the sleeve, like the old school sleeve when you're not knitting in the round. And then sewed it all together, went to the shop and bought a plastic zipper and attached the zipper with just like a running stitch with yarn. It was really hard to get it through the zipper, and and that was it. It was go from there. And I guess it was a couple years later that I went, my aunt was visiting from California, and I knew that she knit, so I, please, can you show me how to knit? How to read a pattern? And she was like, sure. And then, I forget where we found a pattern, but she's like, showed me, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, that's great. So from then on, I guess I mostly knitted patterns and have been knitting patterns for a long time, but recently I've kind of come back to just knitting and making stuff kind of freehand, or however you say it. Like this, for example, what I'm wearing. I just, picked up my needles and yarn. This is BCGarn Allino, and just cast it on here, and just raglan, and my increases I did with just yarn overs, and did like a V-neck shaping. And then on the bottom, I just did a little lace pattern, and even finished that off with a crochet little shell stitch. So that's what I'm wearing. I'm also wearing a skirt that I've made. This is a pocket skirt from Peppermint Magazine. It's a free pattern. And a funny story about the fabric. So I was at H&M, and in the home section they had a bunch of linen duvet covers, or Duna covers they call them here in Australia. And it was 100% linen, and it was on sale for maybe like $40. And it was a single bed duvet cover. So I was like, I'm totally buying that. I'm going to make clothes out of it. So I've made this skirt. I've made a dress. I've since been back and bought more of them. Unfortunately, probably all in the same color, but I did find a green one, and I've made, lots of different things. I've made a hinterland dress. I recently made another skirt by So Liberated. I forget what it's called, with the buttons and the pockets. Estuary skirt. I've made an estuary skirt and the hinterland dress by So Liberated, and a few other things. And so I would highly recommend visiting the home section of H&M, because the linen is really beautiful. It's really soft. Like, obviously, it's good enough to sleep in, to cuddle up in. So it's good enough for clothing, right? All right. I guess I'll talk about things that I'm working on. All right, first I'll talk about crochet. This is something that I've finished recently. These are just granny square bags that I've been making. Like I said, my husband and I, we have an ice cream business. So on the weekends, sometimes we do markets and where we sell our ice cream. And my daughter has been selling jewelry. She makes jewelry. And she has an adorable little stall, and so sometimes I check in a few things that I've made, some earrings and whatnot. And so yeah, I've been making these bags. So basically they're just a granny square, but you just keep going, no pattern, you just, you know, keep growing the granny square. And yeah, then I just make a little strap at the end. This one doesn't have the end sewn in. I just finished this one yesterday. I gotta say, I really love making these. They're so fun. I love how after each color, it looks so different, the square, and I just love seeing all the colors play together. It does take a long time. There is a big music festival coming up here soon, and my daughter's gonna be working at a stall with this lady who makes these beautiful crystal headpieces. She's gonna help her at her stall. And she saw my bags and she said, oh, well, why don't you come and sell these bags and your jewelry as well? My daughter's jewelry. So I said, oh, okay. So I've been kind of crocheting like mad, trying to get a few done. Yeah, so that's that. And this is just cotton, 8-ply, which is DK, I think. I'm still very confused. I've lived here for 10 years, and in Australia, everything's about the ply. Excuse me, 4-ply, 8-ply, 10-ply. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's like a DK weight. So that's what I've been working on furiously. Another thing is, oh, this is just a little bag that I made. I only have, I think, three or four project bags. I'm normally not someone who has a lot of whips on the go. I'm normally someone who sees something that I want to make, and then I buy the yarn and then I make it. So I normally have just one, but because I'm making these crochet bags, I have a few. And also I do have one more knitting project on the go at the moment, which maybe I'll talk about another time. But yeah, that's also, I'm not gonna do like an acquisitions at the end because I don't normally buy a lot of yarn. When I do buy yarn, I normally buy it on Facebook Marketplace. That's like a real hidden gem, I think. I don't know about in other parts of the world. Excuse me for a second. But I love buying yarn on Facebook Marketplace. People destashing, or you can get really cool, unusual things. Yeah. So, also, I guess another place is Etsy, because I bought this yarn on Etsy. Excuse me. I am making the skimming shawl. I was very inspired by Sarah from It's a Sarah podcast. The skimming shawl is by Sophia Capel. I'm that age now. I got to do this when I want to read. I got this yarn. It's Kauni yarn, and it's 100% wool. It is quite rustic, kind of reminds me of Whole Super Soft. I'm not sure what it'll be like once it's washed. Hopefully it'll soften up a bit, but it's not bad. And so this is how mine is turning out. So yeah, I love these colors. I love blue and I love pink and purple. So I don't often wear these colors really, but I thought in a shawl it'd be really pretty. And I just love how the navy blue accents it. So yeah, that's the skimming shawl, and I really love that. So yeah, as far as talking about the yarn, so when I first started knitting, like I said, I had used acrylic, and then after having kids, we started sending our girls to a Waldorf school for preschool, and I just learned all about wool and its wonderful magical properties, and excuse me, And so I kind of made the switch to wool, and then loved it. And then without even really realizing, I guess I started buying, I guess, more expensive yarn, and then sort of that went into superwash, and then didn't really know that superwash was coated in plastic. And you know, we really don't like plastic in our life. At our business, we sell our coconut yogurt in glass jars, and our ice cream is all in compostable tubs, so we're definitely a very plastic-free family. So I have recently made a switch back to non-superwash, more rustic yarns. Yeah, and I'm loving it. I don't find it itchy or irritating, but also here in Australia, it is very hot. Like right now, it's very hot. It's probably like 25 degrees. And so I do knit a lot in cotton and silk and linen like this one. All right, well, I do seem to have a frog in my throat. So I think I'll end things there. So I hope you enjoyed watching, and I will try to make another video. Like I said, I've been knitting for a long time, so I have a lot of stuff to show. Won't always be new things, but yeah, kind of like flashback to things that I've made in the past. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a lovely day and that you get to use your hands to make something beautiful. Thank you.